Hello, doll. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about having hope for marriage after the age of 30. Now, for those who might be new around here, I am Rondell, aka Delle, and I am 32 years old. I will be 33 in November, and I am not married. I am currently a single mother. I've never been married. I have been engaged though. And so I really wanted to talk about this because I feel like in the church, we start to look at people crazy when they hit the age of 25 and they're still unmarried. And I know a lot of people, men and women, who really struggle with the fact that they're single past the time that they thought that they would be single. I used to be one of those Christians, okay? I had all the things in my head of how my life was gonna turn out, how and when it was gonna turn out that way, and God was just going to, give me what my heart desired because why not? Like, I'm his child, right? And it really messed with me in my late 20s when I looked up, I had a failed engagement, another failed relationship that led to my son, and I was single and I just was in a totally honestly low-key destitute place in life across the board, not even just in relationships, but emotionally and financially and all these type of things, right? And I really realized that I was placing my value in the fact that I had a man, when I had one. So the fact that I could say, oh, my boyfriend this, my boyfriend that, I have a man, we're engaged or what have you, it gave me a new sense of confidence and value instead of actually being even without a man, I'm still loved. Even without a man, I still have purpose. As long as I'm waking up and there's breath in my lungs, my job is not finished yet, I still have purpose. And so I really wanted to do this video because being single and expecting marriage, it definitely can be frustrating. But the older you get, it just starts to hit differently. And so I really specifically wanted to talk to those who are 30 and up. But even if you're not 30, don't click off the video. You could still take some gems from this. I just want to talk to the people that are in the season of life like me, 30 and up, who thought that by now they'd be married. And maybe they've also had failed engagements. Maybe they never even got to the engagement phase. But I do want to talk to them specifically. So I'm just going to share 3 points that I have. I got my handy dandy notebook. You know how I do. And we're going to call it a day. So let's jump into point number one. Point number one is that marriage is not a promise of God, but the desire for marriage is from God. And I know this messes a lot of people up because, of course, we hear, God will give you the desires of your heart and this, that, the third. But that's not a blanket term. Like, if I say that I want it, God's going to give it to me. God will, when you come to Christ, God will renew your heart and your mind. And slowly but surely, the desires of your heart will start to align with the desires that God has for your life and the will that he has for your life. And so slowly but surely, yes, you will get the desires of your heart, but that's because they align with God's desires for your life. And so the reason why I want to emphasize that marriage is not a promise is because a lot of the time we take our desire for marriage and we say, well, I know this is God's promise for me and God's gonna give it to me because he promised, but there is nowhere in scripture where God ever says, if you come to me and you give your life to me, I will give you a spouse. We are never guaranteed a spouse. And to be honest, marriage is an earthly thing because when we're in heaven, there is no marriage. And so we have elevated marriage to a point of being an idol. I think marriage is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I still believe in it. I still think it's beautiful. I am here for it. Okay. I'm still believing for a husband, but I understand that God does not have to give me a husband. He doesn't have to. Can he? Yes. Will he? Probably, because I also believe that more of us are meant to be married than not. I think a lot of us who think we have the gift of singleness, we do not, but that's a whole nother video or live stream even. And so I definitely am a huge advocate for marriage. However, I understand that God does not have to give me a husband. And so when you understand that, you now open your mind up and your life up to learn how to commune with God and your singleness and not be miserable, not be bitter, but also not be closed off to the possibility of marriage. And it took me many years to get to this point. Honestly, it took me 5 or 6 years to get to this point where it's you know what? I know God can give me a husband. I have faith and I'm walking in that faith and I'm believing in him for that spouse, that husband. But I also am enjoying my singleness and I'm diving headfirst in the purpose and I'm enjoying the season of life that I'm in. Even though, yes, I have a child, I'm enjoying motherhood. I'm enjoying time with my mom and my sister and other family members and friends and just being free to do things that when you get married, you're not as free to do because now your perspective and your priorities and your responsibilities change. And so it's just like what Paul says in scripture, like he wishes everyone could be single like him and have that gift of singleness, because you're able to really pour into things of the Lord, into things that God puts in your heart, and your attention isn't split and your energy isn't split amongst all these different people and things. So I really just want that to be the first point, and for that to be understood, that marriage is not a promise of God. We are not promised or guaranteed marriage at all, but you don't have to see that as a bad thing, because God can still use you in your life. And honestly, you can still have faith and believe, because he very well can do it. And for a lot of us, he will, but it might not happen at the time that we're thinking of. It might not happen in the way that we're thinking of. And if it never happens, your life is still valuable. It was not in vain. Point number 2 is that God is not restricted by our desired time frame and our preferences. So a lot of the time too, why a lot of us end up not being married is because we're allowing preferences to become standards. Standards are things that you're willing to suffer for. Standards are things that you are not going to shift for. You are not going to budge on. Preferences are things that are nice to have, but in the grander scheme of things, they're inconsequential, and or you could live without them. And so we have to stop thinking that God has to give us our preferences because we prayed and asked him. You could be walking right by your husband, but because he's not 6'3" and he doesn't look a certain way, you're not looking at him, but he can very well be your husband. But you're using your preferences as an excuse to not notice that and to not tap in and ask God for his discernment and his clarity. Also, God is not restricted by our time frames, because he is the author of time. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He is outside of time. So we are thinking, okay, I want to be married by this age, because after that, like, who's to say I would enjoy marriage? But again, as long as there's breath in your body, you can still have many years of wedded bliss. You know, let's say you got married at the age of 50, but you and your husband lived to be 95. That's still 45 years of wedded bliss. Would you have personally waited till you were 50? No, because you would have wanted to probably get married at the age of 25 years earlier. But God's timing is perfect, and he understands that you have work to do in your singleness, and you have work to do in marriage life and in wedded life, because marriage is a ministry, and it is an example of Christ loving the church, Christ being the bridegroom and the church being the bride. And so if there is a point where God needs you to be married to accomplish the purpose that he has for your life and the mission that he has for your life, you will be married. You will be married. Now, he does give us free will to choose and all of that, but again, it will come to pass. Nothing that is for you will not happen, if that makes sense. I hope I said that right. But nothing that's for you, you don't have to fret that it won't happen, because it won't happen. But you just have to pray and put your faith in Christ above all else, and ask for discernment to notice, because there are instances where someone could look like it, but it's not it. And that's where the discernment comes in. That's where the clarity comes in. And that's where you're able to see with your spiritual eyes versus your fleshly eyes and desires. Point number 3 is to embrace the journey and the process. So many times we're focused on the destination that we don't enjoy the journey getting to the destination. You know, when I was in my 20s, I used to really fret about being married, because everybody around me was getting married. In your 20s, it's kind of rough, especially depending on where you grow up, because in certain societies and communities, people tend to get married younger, and in the church, that's not uncommon. And so when you're looking around and everybody's meeting someone and getting married, and it seems like their life is just like sailing off into the sunset, it's easy for you to question and be like, okay, how come I'm not married yet? What's going on with me? And then you end up just focusing so much on getting to the destination that you don't enjoy the journey. You don't enjoy the lessons that you learn along the way. You don't enjoy the grooming that happens along the way. You don't enjoy the growth that happens along the way. When I was younger, if I got what I was praying for now in a husband, I would have squandered it. I would have messed it up completely. I wouldn't have appreciated him at all. And granted, I'm not married yet, but I know he's close. And so it's just like, I'm spending that time now reopening my mind to the idea of being in a relationship, let alone a marriage, shifting from a me, myself, and I mindset to a we mindset, a partnership mindset, learning to not be so hell-bent on things have to go this way, but to be flexible and to be willing to learn new things. Everybody's not there yet. Some people, they might say they are, but when it boils down to it, they want things to be how they want it to be, and they're not flexible in areas where flexibility can be used, and they're not open to God just like having his way. And so I'm working on that in myself, and I'm looking at myself to do the work from now, so that way when I meet my husband, I could be the best partner that I could be for him, and together we can come together and sharpen each other and run in purpose. So if I was so focused on marriage, I wouldn't be doing this work work that I'm doing, because I'll just be focused on, I just got to get the man. I just got to get the man. I just got to get the man. But I would be missing the gems that I'm getting along the way. I would be missing the lessons that I'm learning along the way. I would be missing the introspection and the time to really sit with myself and do some deep diving and say like, okay, I need to work on this, or I need to work on that, or, you know, like, these are some areas I would personally like to improve, because I'm just a huge advocate that we should always be challenging ourselves. Like, I never want to get complacent in life where it's like, this is just who I am and it is what it is. I always want to be striving to grow, to be better, you know, not perfection, but to improve, just to be better. Like, there's nothing wrong with trying to improve. So do not be so obsessed with the end destination of marriage that you miss the growth in the process. Like, everything now leading up to marriage is going to prepare you. So enjoy it. Enjoy these moments where you can do what you want to do, and you don't have to have tough conversations with someone about finances, or you don't have to have tough conversations with someone about some obstacles in your life that you've been battling for years, or you don't have to have tough conversations on compromise. Okay, like, I'm telling y'all, it gets real out here in these streets. So enjoy your singleness. Like, stop looking at it as this is a curse or a prison sentence, because when you look at it that way, you'll just be desperate to get out of it. But when you really start looking at it like, you know what, I really am free to be a vessel and to just live, I'm telling you, that is gonna radiate out of you, and you're gonna attract the people that are similar in that way to you, and you're gonna attract better matches anyway. Because when you're like in a funk and you're like, oh my goodness, like, I just want to be married, that energy comes out whether you think it does or not. So just really learn to like have an attitude of gratitude. Be an active participant in your thinking. If you catch yourself having a negative thought, stop it. You know, like, just be grateful. An attitude of gratitude, it will get you very far. So to wrap this video up, even though you're over the age of 30 and you're looking at your life and you're like, is God even gonna do it for me? Can he even still do it? I really want to encourage you today that, sis, you can still get married after the age of 30, and you can still have a blessed marriage. You can have a fruitful and joyful marriage. Like they say, it's better to wait long than to marry wrong. I know people personally and through online who have just gotten engaged, and they're in their early 40s, some in their 50s, and they have so much joy, because when it's right, when it's God, it fits like a hand in a glove. Doesn't mean everything's gonna be perfect, doesn't mean you're not gonna have obstacles, but it's not gonna be like you're trying to fit a square through a round peg or a round hole or whatever they say. But it's not gonna feel forced. It's just gonna flow, and it's gonna be a soul connection. So do not lose hope, sis. God can still do it for you. I want to challenge you, even if it's just for the next 30 days, to just wake up with an attitude of gratitude. Wake up and speak what you are having faith and belief in God for. Wake up and say, God, thank you for my husband that's going to come in my life. Thank you for a godly, fruitful marriage. Thank you for the divine connection that you're going to bring in my life. Just start speaking it. Just start thanking him for it now. And I'm telling you, it's going to shift your mindset. Find some scriptures that can help encourage you. Put it on your desktop or your laptop screensaver. Put it in your phone lock screen, on your bathroom mirror, wherever you're going to be at, like, the most often. And just say it to yourself. Say it to yourself. The more you say it, the more it's going to become a part of you. And the more it's going to help just encourage you and keep that hope. Because if you don't have hope, then you're not really going to have faith. Like, hope is really the catalyst for it. And that's what keeps us going. If you don't have hope, then what's the point? And I'm hoping with you, and I'm believing with you. And I can't wait to hear your testimonies. If it happens for you, please come back under this video and comment. Or if it happens to someone that you know, like, comment under this video and just share the testimonies too, because testimonies also help encourage us and give us more hope, and just remind us that God is still a living God and he can still do it. So that's it for this video. I really, really hope and pray that this encourages you. Like I said, I'm believing with you, I'm praying over you and with you, and we will be blessed with godly husbands in God's time, and it will be right, and we'll be glad that we waited. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for the live stream, 3 p.m. Eastern. I do lives every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, and I upload every Tuesday. So make sure that you're right back here on my channel tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time for a YouTube live stream, and we'll be having a little chit chat. Also, don't forget to share this video with a friend who could use the encouragement, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.